Hello out there, my friends. It is I, Hondo Onaka. Now you know what to do. You must tune in to my favorite podcast, the Fiveish Fangirls. Otherwise, there could be consequences.
The Digest we continue all the way to episode 512 of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. And let's hope that during the recording of this podcast, nobody ends up with a snake in their boot. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. So glad you joined us. Let's start off like the Rurik from the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany in Bengal.
And this is Holly from Wisconsin.
This is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Or should we say, howdy, partners?
Yeah, exactly.
You're our favorite deputy.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that. First up, we need to do the news, and unfortunately, there's been 10 o'clock news still. Oh my goodness, this time of year.
Yeah.
Something about it. I don't know. This is more of a personal to me, just because I spent so much of my childhood watching British programming on my local PBS station, especially on the weekends. Like during the week, during the day, it was Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, and all that. Evenings, it tended to be stuff more geared towards grown-ups. And on the weekends is when they did like the British invasion type stuff and other random programming like that. So I always tried to I was pretty glued to watching Are You Being Served and As Time Goes By.
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then either before or after. Sometimes I miss it, and I'd be like, it's still British comedy. Dame Patricia Rutledge, who was the star of Keeping Up Appearances, as I have to say it the way she would like it said, playing Hyacinth Bouquet.
Yes.
Even
Not
though it is
bucket.
spelled bucket.
Yeah, it's bouquet, dear.
It is bouquet. Yeah, she's passed away at the age of 96.
Oh, long life.
Yeah. But Hyacinth is just one of those, like,
quintessential,
quintessential, like, especially with British humor. So,
yes.
She was this this working woman in this working class family who constantly wanted to be at a higher station, or at least make people think that she was at a higher station. Telling people that it's pronounced bouquet even though it is spelled bucket, like Charlie Bucket, and in the chocolate factory.
Yes.
But she always just would get herself into these, and her poor husband, who just wanted to be left alone,
Yes.
would just get into all these different shenanigans, trying to make it seem like she was of a
higher station,
much higher class, than what they actually were. So she was just, I mean, the show only ran for 5 years. There's only 44 episodes of Keeping Up Appearances. Just because that's the way British television was. Unlike now where, we're used to having seasons of television where, it's 15, 20 plus episodes. The BBC, not so much. But yeah, I mean, you can find at the very least clips, if not the show itself on places on the internet, I'm sure. So I don't know if that's something on BritBox or not. I don't have BritBox, so real quick here. Well, you can get all 5 seasons on Amazon or Apple TV. So I can tell you that. So, but yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
96, not bad.
Yeah.
So, and then a name that I think is probably a bit more recognizable for a lot of people. Jane Goodall has passed at the age of 91, which I didn't realize she was that old.
Me either.
Right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, most people, you hear her name and you immediately think of chimpanzees. You think of monkeys, you think of apes,
Yes.
primates, and
Mhm.
you know, that was her thing. You know, that's the thing that helped her make a name for herself. But I mean, it wasn't just chimpanzees, it was environmentalism and, you know, protecting the habitats, not just the animals, you know, the entire ecosystem. But yeah, but comparatively to us humans, there are some species of primate that were very close when it comes to DNA. So her research with them helped, you know, helped us to understand not only them but us, you know, human beings, uh, and how they're, you know, some of these various species of primate are actually very human-like in the way that they act, the way they socialize with each other, the way they use tools like humans do. So, but yeah, she was quite the trailblazer in uh in the scientific field. Yeah, you want to look at women in the sciences. She's one of the greats. So there is that. And throw this in here. Just because it was cracking me up right before we started recording. GalaxyCon Columbus, as I was slightly bemoaning last episode, about all these people that they keep adding. It's like, there's so many hours in the day. You gotta slow it down a little. I gotta have time to sleep at least for 5 minutes. But this is I just think this is a panel that I think I kind of just want to make sure I get to sit in on, because it probably will be hilarious. Because we are getting Tommy Chong Galaxy Con. Oh
boy.
Oh my. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Make sure things are open so things are properly ventilated, if you catch my drift.
I was saying that thing that made him and Cheech very famous, actually was just legalized in Ohio in the last few years. So
or just go be forewarned. If you go in, you might have a severe case of the munchies afterwards.
Yeah. So that's just that cracks me up that he's gonna be there. But yeah, I have to try and make sure I at least catch some of his panel, because I'm sure it's gonna be hilarious.
Yes.
Steve's not here. Oh my. So there is that. Ooh, pardon me. And of course, we are in a new month, as crazy as that is.
Yes.
So that
Mhm.
means book club updates.
Yep, just a second. Let me quick head over to our homepage. All right, our book for this month is The Sandman, which is an audiobook. I thought, yeah, it sounds like spooky season to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I do have next month's book. It is going to be for November. It's going to be Frida Kahlo and the Skull Children, and then in November I will post a poll for December's book choice.
Which that is really, that kind of broke my brain just there for a second. It's like the poll is up for the penultimate book club choice for 2025.
They'll be in November that I'll put that poll. That I'll put the poll up for December.
Yeah, well, it's like, you know,
Yeah, I know.
the penultimate. It's not the final one. It's the one before the final one.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that's what poll is up for, is currently up for, is
Gotcha.
the penultimate book club choice for 2025.
There is
There's
no
only
poll up
2
yet.
left.
There is no poll up yet.
Yeah, well, there will be.
There will be in November. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like there's only 2 book club
choices left.
choices left.
Unless there's a tie in November for December, then
It's like we only have 2 new book club topics before the then the year's over. That's
end
just
of
like
the
that.
year.
That's
mind-boggling,
that's
yeah.
breaking my brain a little.
Like, what do you mean?
This is not
computer. Yeah.
Oh.
This does not compute.
Oh. Oh my.
Yeah.
What's really funny is Chauncey and I were talking about like the holidays and stuff earlier today, and like I like 2 and 2 did not make 4 until right now. That's like, oh yeah, like, yeah,
we're in October.
Yeah, it's October, which means Thanksgiving is next month.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Soon the turkey and all the trimmings and whatnot will be upon us. Yay!
Mm-hmm. Thankfully, I don't have to cook any of that. My sister-in-law takes care of all that, and she is more than happy to do so. That's fine by me. Oh, all right. Well, that's really it for the news. From Hollywood classics to controversial winners, we cover it all. If you love cinema history as much as we do, consider supporting Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, on Patreon, because every podcast deserves a standing ovation. Find us at patreon.com/goldstandardoscars. So we will move on to feedback. So we got some feedback from Shalane. Yay! So quite a bit of feedback actually from Shalane. So she says, going back to Clueless, there are a few more rom-coms and chick flicks I forgot to mention that would be fun to talk about. Legally Blonde and Hairspray. Hell yeah. Especially because those also have really good musicals going, adaptations.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's also a stage musical adaptation of Clueless, which is a jukebox musical. It's not as well known as Mean Girls or Legally Blonde the musical, but it did star Dove Cameron from the Disney Channel. Also didn't get to mention my connection with Jane Austen back when you girls talked about Sense and Sensibility. I've read all of her novels, and I've seen the Emma movie starring Gwyneth Paltrow and Ewan McGregor, though I haven't seen the version with Anya Taylor-Joy and Josh O'Connor yet. Going back to the Anaconda remake with Paul Rudd, Jack Black, it's actually about their characters remaking the original Anaconda. The trailer just dropped recently, though I know you girls probably aren't too interested. Yeah, I can't say I'm too interested. So, now on to the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. It looks amazing. I can't wait for it. I'm planning to rewatch all 3 seasons of The Mandalorian plus the Book of Boba Fett to get ready for the movie. I might even rewatch Obi-Wan Kenobi and Skeleton Crew too. I already know what I'm wearing to the theater, one of my Star Wars outfits from Hero Universe, which is on my Christmas list. And of course, I'll be taking my own Grogu plushie with me. I follow a few girls on social media who are obsessed with Star Wars, Disney, Marvel, and other fandoms, and they go to Disney Universal parks all the time. So lucky. And yes, I remembered that Sigourney Weaver is going to be in the movie. She's truly the queen of space. Between Alien, Avatar, Galaxy Quest, and even Wall-E, where she voiced the ship's computer, she's earned that title. Her and Zoe Saldana both deserve the Queen of Space title, actually. Zoe's been in Star Trek, Avatar, Guardians of the Galaxy, and most recent Elio, the new Pixar movie. Going back to Star Wars stories, the miniseries on Disney Plus are basically standalone Star Wars stories. After Solo, a Star Wars story, didn't do well at the box office, they shifted to doing series instead of movies that gave us Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka, Andor, Skeleton Crew, The Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Mandalorian. Now The Mandalorian is getting its own movie, which will probably be a big box office hit. I really need to read more Star Wars books, though. So far, I've only read Ahsoka. It depends. The books. It depends on what you read, on whether it's canon or not.
Yeah, because there's the stuff that's
depending on what canon you're going by.
Right, because there was the canon, or not. Some of it's quasi canon now, but not canon anymore. But canon when I was of the age when those books are coming out, called Legends, and then there's the newer Disney stuff that is now considered canon, and the stuff that they cherry picked from the Legends and make canon for, i.e., Thrawn. Yeah, so you got, if you have questions, we'll try to answer. We've got a few experts.
Yeah. I had a friend in high school that had so many of the books. I just remember flipping through some of them, and in the books, that's where Leia and Han had 2 kids. They had twins themselves.
And three kids actually.
Yeah,
3 kids.
But they have a set of twins.
Twins, yep. Jaina and Jason.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, that's cool. And then now it's all like, that's right out the window.
Yeah. Then there was the comic book series that they did in between from Dark Horse that tied in, where spoilers. Well, spoilers, not spoilers anymore, because it's
if it's not canon, is it really?
Well, Luke went dark side.
Yeah.
Thanks to a clone of the Emperor. Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, they still take some of that stuff and use it in the
they
live
took
action
some
stuff.
Of the stuff
like cloning the Emperor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, they cherry pick stuff. I mean, when I found that Dark Empire series, I found back issues when I went up north. Then the place I went up north actually had a comic book store. So kind of going through, and I caught up, and I found out that the release schedule, it kind of worked for like almost the times that we were up there, they would have a new issue. I'm like, oh, good. So at least I was able to finish that first series while I was up, because that was a shocker. And a couple of my cousins were quasi fans too. So it was like we were all huddled around the the comics, like, wait, what? Huh? Yikes. Good times.
Yeah, Luke does all sorts of things in the expanded universe.
Yeah. He gets married.
Yep.
Has a kid of his own.
Yep. Some of those attachments that the Jedi kept warning about.
Yeah. And it's just like, well, baby Jedis have to come from somewhere.
Exactly. It's like they're Jedi. They're not monks.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. If you have
enough of our soapbox.
Yeah, let's say if you have questions about the books and what should be read, what you should read, so that it doesn't absolutely confuse you. You know where to find us.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see here. Back to the 2 movie anniversaries this year. You've covered a few musicals like Cinderella and The Road to El Dorado, which I think are the only musicals you've talked about so far. That sounds about right. Now, for Wicked for Good, I've watched the trailer at least 1,000 times. I got chills. Especially when Cynthia Erivo sang No Good Deed and Ariana Grande sang For Good. Both of them really captured Elphaba and Glinda perfectly. Just like how Haley Bailey brought Ariel to life, and Lily James did the same for Cinderella. I read that we'll see Dorothy in Wicked for Good, but only from behind. We won't actually see her face, so we don't know who's playing her yet. But the only Dorothys we really know and love are Judy Garland, Ashanti from The Muppets, Wizard of Oz, and Terry Reeves from Once Upon a Time. Of course, Dorothy doesn't appear on stage in the Wicked musical either. True. At least not yes and no. The obviously not a spoiler because the Wizard of Oz movie, the Judy Garland movie and the books are super old. But when the witch gets melted, that is done in it's backlit. So there is somebody playing Dorothy so that it's like a shadow cast. Almost like a shadow puppet, but with live people, I think. So you see a shape that looks, very much like Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz. And it goes through that scene of her throwing the bucket of water and the witch melting, and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion and the Scarecrow are standing around her and stuff. So yeah, we don't actually see Dorothy in the stage musical, but we see some of what happens because of Dorothy being in Oz.
Mhm.
So we see some of her influence, and we see air quotes Dorothy, but we don't see, when you think of Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, that's not what you get to see in the musical. So yeah, I mean, since we're not, I guess it depends on how they decide to explain how the Dorothy and her friends go through the adventure that they have, while also some of those people also being directly involved in the events of Wicked. So it's like they can't be in two places at the same time. So at some point, like, our little group with Dorothy is going to have to break up. I would imagine that it's probably when the witch has her held hostage, would be my best guess. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see, considering how integral her friends are to the events in Wicked, and we know those actors. So yeah, I can't imagine that we would only get Dorothy, like just from behind, to be like silent, or I guess. So I don't know. I guess that's one of those things that'll be interesting to see how they make that work, I guess. 'Tis a quandary, and that's why I don't get paid to make those decisions. Somebody else gets the big bucks to make those decisions. So
Mhm.
but that's okay. Going back. Where was I? I can't wait for Wicked for Good to come out. My friend and I are planning to see it together as part of a double feature with Zootopia 2 around Thanksgiving break. I'm still working on my Glinda collection, and my friend is building her Elphaba collection. The movie will be rated PG, not PG-13. Honestly, I think both Wicked trailers broke the internet. Yeah. And I've seen some theaters will be offering a Wicked double feature. So
Oh,
you can
nice.
watch the movies essentially back to back, which is like twice as long as the stage musical. It's like 5+ hours. So I'm also really excited for the Super Mario Brothers Galaxy movie. My friend and I are planning to dress up as Mario and Luigi when we go see it. There are lots of rumors about who's going to appear in this one, but I'm mostly excited for Yoshi. Now, on to This is Spinal Tap. This is your second Rob Reiner film to discuss after The Princess Bride. And on Gold Standard, you've already covered 3 of his films, The Princess Bride, with Harry Met Sally, and A Few Good Men. Fun fact, my friend's parents once dressed up as characters from Spinal Tap for Halloween. They love doing couple costumes. They've also done Wesley and Buttercup, Gomez and Morticia Adams, The Devil Wears Prada, and Singing in the Rain. Lastly, I've only seen Robert Redford in the Pete's Dragon remake, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and Avengers: Endgame. And going back to conventions, I've only seen Devon Sawa and Casper Now and Then, which also stars Christina Ricci and Thora Birch, and Little Giants. Since we're in spooky season, I'll be patient for when you girls talk about good Halloween movies like The Goonies, Casper, The Addams Family, and Wednesday, Scooby-Doo, Hotel Transylvania, and of course, The Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride. Yes, there's lots of good spooky type movies out there for us to discuss. Although the one we're going to do for Halloween this year is not on that list, but that is okay. It is all good. Thank you, Shalene, for your feedback as always. Glad you were able to drag yourself away for listening to Life of a Showgirl on repeat like the rest of us to write it. I was supposed to be getting ready for vacation, but I'm just like, it's just been Taylor Swift nonstop since Friday morning. Like, I got up for work, and first thing I did was download the new album on Spotify and listen to it once through before I even left the house Friday morning to go to work. There's so many of us talking about, like, we all get up and we're walking into the building 5:30, 5:45, 6 a.m. and yeah, there's a handful of us who are like, oh yeah, I've already listened to it all the way through. This is my favorite song at the moment. Oh, Taylor Swift. She's awesome. Yeah, I'll just drag myself away from Life of a Showgirl for a half second. For this week's main topic, which we kind of have covered this, but that's back when we just did a kind of overall Pixar type episode, and that was quite a while ago. And of course, Pixar has released several movies since then. But specifically for this, we are taking a look at the movie that kind of started it all, and ever since has allowed Pixar to make us become very emotionally involved in inanimate objects. Stuff that's not alive in the real world, we think. So yeah, the movie that started it all, Toy Story.
Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
Establish a recon post downstairs.
Code Red, repeat. We are at Code Red. Recon Plan Charlie. Execute. Move, 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 move. It's a big one.
Walt Disney Pictures presents
Star Command, come in. Do you read me?
the story of two toys
There seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Hello?
headed for a showdown.
My name is Woody. This is my spot.
I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace.
You are a child's plaything!
You are a sad, strange little man.
And playing by their own rules.
Draw! Got me again!
I don't like confrontations.
Boss-looking alien!
Where? You're mocking me, aren't you?
Oh, impressive wingspan. Very good.
Oh, what? What? You can't fly.
Yes, I can.
Can't.
Can.
Can't!
The adventure takes off when toys come to life.
To infinity and beyond.
Toy Story.
Look out!
Can.
Which is celebrating 30 years next month, actually. Released right before Thanksgiving in 1995. And immediately kind of changed the landscape for not just animation, but movie making as a whole. If you go over to Gold Standard and as because we do if we were the Academy segment, we've been able to also track the changes as far as like the different categories that's not just the Oscar. Obviously the Oscars is our main focus, but other awards have had to adapt as movie making has changed. And obviously for the longest time, what's really sad or funny or ironic, however you want to put it, I guess that depends on your opinion, it is Toy Story came out in 1995 and just absolutely changed a lot of things. It's still going to be six more years before we get a best feature length animated film category.
Wow.
We still only had animated shorts as a category.
Wowza.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Academy, they can be a little slow.
Slow on the uptake, big time.
And I almost want to say sometimes, but actually quite often.
Yeah, we're being generous with the sometimes, even though we mean quite often.
Quite often, yes. When
I mean, how long did it take for the stuff that's about to come out, like the stunts? They're finally doing stunts.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's still just like they're just categories that they need to create, and they need to get their heads out of their butts when it comes to recognizing what stop being so freaking pretentious. I just a little bitter.
The highbrow stuff is slowly becoming less highbrow and more like for the people. For everybody to understand. We need to get to that.
Yeah, it was like a little less a room with a view to staircase and a pond. Where like 3 people saw it, but those 3 people's opinion really matter versus the stuff that makes a crap ton of money, and people are like, well, that's not real cinema. It's like, it's so subjective is the thing. But sometimes you just have a movie come along, and this is one of them where it's just like, this is a game changer, and it's not even like hindsight being 2020 and being in the future and looking back and realizing, oh yeah, that was kind of important spot in history. No, people knew at this time how big a deal this was. It's CGI was slowly becoming a thing being used in film. We had things like the light cycles in Tron. Even some of they were, or at least George Lucas wanted to toyed with the idea of using CGI for some of the the TIE fighters, like the Battle of Yavin and stuff for Star Wars. But actually at that point in the 70s, while they had the ability to do CGI, it wasn't as good as what he wanted, and he knew that it was not going to look as realistic as what he could do and what he did ultimately do with miniatures and models and things like that, like green screen compositing, that sort of thing. But it was actually John Lasseter. He's kind of the linchpin in all of this, because he actually was working at Disney, Walt Disney Feature Animation, as an animator. He saw the light cycle, scene in Tron, and he was just like, so he actually, based on that, was like, hey, if we could do this for a few scenes, who's to say we can't do it for an entire movie? And he went to his bosses at Disney and was like, I have an idea for a completely computer generated animated movie. Ultimately that movie would get made much later, and we would know it as The Brave Little Toaster. But at Disney at the time was like, yeah, we're not really interested, and actually he got fired. um Thankfully he did not remain unemployed for very long because he ended up going to Lucasfilm. So um not a bad, if you're gonna, that's not a bad lateral move, really, to go from Disney to Lucasfilm. Now it's the same thing, essentially. But at the time, they were separate companies. Um, and it was him and a number of other guys that had been students at CalArts, that ultimately came together to form this company called Pixar. Um, and um, and actually, um, they were they showed promise really early on without having done a whole lot, but the promise was there, the talent was there. They just needed a little help with money more than anything, because if you're going to do CGI, the first part of that is the computer part, and they weren't cheap in the 80s. They're not that cheap now, but they really weren't cheap in the 80s. Yeah, the computers that they would have needed to do this sort of thing were very expensive. They were doing their own software though, so that did help cut costs by creating their own software, as far as like modeling and being able to create characters and animate them and all that. Which that's a whole other almost another episode that I actually touched upon Render Man, at least for a little bit in my graduate thesis when talking about using computers to do design work. So if anybody, if anybody wants me to go down that rabbit hole at some point, in the future, and if you want me to get all nerdy about 3D animation, out just in general, I can totally do that. Otherwise, just go to YouTube and look up Render Man, and you can find stuff to watch. But so yeah, Pixar, they're like, we want to do all this stuff, but we kind of need money. And it just so happens that their social circles overlapped with this guy that had helped found this computer company, the computer part of the CGI. It just so happens that they knew a guy who knew a thing or two about computers by the name of Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs is all like, hey, I've got money. You heard of this company called Apple? It's that little fruit company that Forrest Gump invested in. And he was like, hey, I can help you, just sell me your company. And they were like, okay. So that's what they did. He bought Pixar, essentially. And with that influx of cash, they were able to get to work, and they were able to produce the short film Tin Toy, and that won the 1989 Academy Award for Best Animated Short. because we had that category then. It's still the first computer generated film to do so, even in the animated short category. And winning an Oscar, kind of a big deal, kind of gets you noticed by the folks in Hollywood. Strike while the iron's hot, pick up this person while their name is, on people's lips for a positive reason. And over at the Walt Disney Company, there was a new team in town by the names of Eisner and Katzenberg. And of course, Michael Eisner being CEO and Jeffrey Katzenberg being the chairman in the film division, were like, hey, John Lasseter, we know that somebody, not us because we're new, but somebody, a while ago fired you, and we're really sorry about that, but would you come work with us again, please? And Lasseter was all like, he just wasn't too sure. He was like, Steve Jobs, he's put all this time and money and faith into me, and won this Oscar. I helped create this company. I'd hate to leave it. And essentially he said, I can go to Disney and be a director, or I can stay here and make history. Damn, if he was not incorrect in that statement. So Katzenberg realized Lasseter not leaving Pixar. Next best thing, production deal to work with Pixar to produce a film. And up until this point, Disney had always made all of their movies in-house, and they weren't about to change that. You can't see it, but I'm rolling my eyes. But it just so happened that another director and former Disney employee by the name of Tim Burton wanted to buy back the rights to The Nightmare Before Christmas because it had been made in-house, and he was like, it's my movie, I kind of want to have the rights to it. So he and Disney struck up a deal and allowed him to still say, this is a Disney film, but it's not completely under the thumb of the Disney company, if that makes sense. So because of that, they realized they could do something similar to Pixar, and that worked out well. And by this point, everybody's like, hey, sure, let's do this. So Alvy Ray Smith, who's another co-founder of Pixar, had wanted to do a computer animated feature, and by now we're in the early 90s, and the price of computers had gone way down. Like when they first came out, they were expensive and big and weren't necessarily that powerful, but as we've seen even now, it does not take very long for them to innovate to make things smaller and faster, and very quickly. You're not sitting around waiting for a very long time for them to make improvements to the previous model. And also Disney was licensing Pixar's software, their production software, and But Steve Jobs, I don't know if this is so much his opinion of Disney as a whole or just the specific people involved, because supposedly this is something he said specifically to Katzenberg.
Interesting.
And he's like, we want to do a film with you that would make us happy. It's like, yeah, it'd be a good thing. But yeah, he was hesitant a little bit, which understandable considering, he'd helped co-found Apple and had been booted out from his own company.
Mm-hmm.
Then finally worked his way back in. So, so it's like, just because it's your company doesn't necessarily mean that, they won't kick you to the curb if they think it's necessary. So,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a bunch of bigwigs get together. 1990, discuss making a feature film. Katzenberg wanted to work with Pixar. Walt Disney feature animation president Peter Schneider didn't want to be working with a non-Disney animation studio, even though one of the co-founders of that studio is a former Disney animator. So it's not like, it's not like Lasseter didn't know how Disney liked to do things. He had been on the other side. Cranky old codgers is like, I don't want to change anything. So Katzenberg was like, okay, well, we'll meet with Pixar and let's, see if we can figure something out. So Katzenberg met with Lasseter, Jobs. Pixar proposed 3 separate ideas. An original film entitled Bob the Dinosaur, an adaptation of James and the Giant Peach, and a Christmas television special entitled A Tin Toy Christmas. Disney was all like, hey, we like that. We kind of like the cut of that last idea. Let's massage that and see what we get out of it. And Katzenberg was all like, well, if we're gonna do like a half-hour special, we might as well just go all the way and make a feature-length film, which at this point, I mean, Toy Story is 81 minutes. So the minimum length for a feature is changed throughout the years. So, but obviously more than an hour. So, and, of course, Katzenberg being Katzenberg, the man, for all of his faults, of which there are many, he does not sugarcoat anything. He will tell it like it is, and he even then he was aware of people's opinion of him and was aware that some of it was actually true. Because he actually let Lasseter know, he's like, I'm really doing this because I really want you to be working on this because of your talent. And that, if we do ink this deal, the people at Pixar need to know that they will be working with a, quote, tyrant and micromanager. That's Katzenberg referring to himself.
At least he was.
I mean,
At least he was being quasi honest.
Yeah, I mean that's putting it mildly, and that's like the bare minimum. But yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I guess that's a start.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I mean, he's got a more of a way to go, but I guess
yeah.
we can give him partial
Um,
credit at least.
yeah. So he actually invited the Pixar team to come talk with Disney's animators and get their opinions of what it's like working for cats and birds. And I guess Lester was not quite put off by it, so they negotiated, and eventually um they would um strike a deal uh that Disney would have complete ownership and control of the films and the characters, including the rights to make sequels without Pixar's involvement, while Pixar would get approximately 12.5% of ticket sales. Which at the time was Pixar was okay with, because despite the influx of money they got with Steve Jobs' purchase of the company, they were almost broke. So they needed to make money and fast. um, Obviously, if you know anything about the history of Pixar, um, since then to now, and the headbutting and the attempts at negotiation and the failures at negotiation with Lasseter, with Eisner, with Jobs, it was a mess. It was a huge mess until um eventually, you know, Pixar is now firmly under the back in the Disney stable, as it were. Um and thankfully I think did they get that figured out before Steve Jobs passed? I don't remember. I
I'm
think
not
so.
sure.
Um but yeah, that was a thing for a long time. It's like, because it was like Disney Pixar, but Pixar wasn't actually part of Disney. It was just like a distribution licensing thing.
Mhm.
Um so
Not quite a complete and total partnership.
yeah.
More
Yeah.
like an acquaintance.
Yeah, a little bit. It was a functional enough working relationship.
Yeah.
Functional enough that they, eventually were able to make the first Toy Story movie. But even that, even the just to get to the movie that we ultimately got, was still a road and a half to
Hmm.
get what we finally got. Um, just because the ideas that were coming out of was, a whole, like a lot of movie scripts. The first version is not the version that we finally see. So originally the story was going to feature Tinny, the little wind up toy from the short, along with a ventriloquist dummy, because that's not creepy at all. Um, and the premise was going to be about toys' desire to be played with by children. Um, and them having a whole bunch of random adventures, including finding their way to a kindergarten. The Tinny, at one point, Tinny was going to get left behind at a gas station. Obviously, some of these plot points probably sound familiar, because
I was gonna say,
end up being plot points for Toy Story 2 and 3. Uh so um uh but Katzenberg was like, this is it's like you got these two characters, but they have the same motivation. It's like, where's really a story there? So then he was all like, how about a buddy film with two characters with contrasting personalities who eventually become friends? Tale as old as time. And so they revised their spec script, their treatment. Tinny comes in to replace a ventriloquist dummy as the child's favorite toy. And they get left behind at a gas station. They almost catch up to the family at a pizza restaurant. They have to escape a kid that mutilates toys. And the movie ends with a chase scene as two toys try to catch up with the family's movie van. Again, probably sounds kind of familiar. Even then, still needed some tweaking because Lasseter realized that the tin toy was a bit too antique. Like, why would a kid choose a tin toy over something cooler? Yeah. So first they were going to change him into like a military type action figure, like a la G.I. Joe. But then they were like, ooh, no, space. Space is cool. Kids like space. Yeah, it probably helped that Lasseter had worked at Lucasfilm. Space, little cool. So Tinny's name was changed to Lunar Larry, and then Tempest from Morph, and eventually inspired by one of the greats of the U.S. Space program, Buzz Aldrin, Buzz Lightyear. So he got a makeover, and then they changed the design of Woody so that he was more cowboy-like. Instead of being a ventriloquist dummy, he's the toy that's got the pull string and says various phrases. It's still kind of an homage to like Howdy Doody, who was a ventriloquist dummy. So they eventually put the kibosh on all the ventriloquist dummy parts of Woody's design because he looked sneaky and mean. Like, also, I've seen some images. I think he just looks a little creepy. So now they've got their odd couple, their body, their enemies to friends, obviously they still got to polish the script some and then figure out some of our other characters. Obviously at one point they wanted G.I. Joe, and at first Mattel was it Mattel or Hasbro that owns G.I. Joe? I think maybe it's Hasbro.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Whoever. At least at the time. I think it was Hasbro. They were like, oh yeah, sure, we can work something out, and then they found out that their G.I. Joe was going to be blown up by Sid. They were like, no, we're not having
now.
We're not having our hero, military guy get blown up by the crazy kid next door. So,
and Rachel, you are right. It is Hasbro.
It's Hasbro. So they changed it to Combat Carl. G.I. Joe. And of course you got the little green men, which those are like, I don't know if necessarily one company holds like the copyright or patents to the Little Green Army Men. So they did want a bigger role for Barbie. But Mattel would not give them the license, so that's how we end up with Bo Peep, although we end up with Barbie.
Later
Mattel
on.
changed their minds after they saw how successful the first movie was. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Can we have in on those toy movies, please?
Yeah. Yeah. And then some character, there's some toys that are, very obvious that they're a specific toy, where they would have had to get like the rights or whatever for them, like Mr. Potato Head, Etch a Sketch. Obviously some are generic enough that it doesn't matter, like Rex, like Slinky Dog. The piggy bank, um so yeah, once they got that, and of course the squeaky toy aliens. And then Pizza and the Pizza Planet was actually going to be a pizza miniature golf place called Pizza Putt. And they realized that was a bit too much, so they just changed it to Pizza Planet. And of course, that is an Easter egg. You can find a Pizza Planet truck in every Pixar movie in some form or other. Sometimes it's an actual truck, or the delivery truck or delivery van. Sometimes it's just an image of it. So, but yeah, Pizza Planet appears pretty much in every Pixar movie. And yeah, so then it was voice casting, and they originally for casting for Woody, they thought of people like Paul Newman, who would eventually go on to voice Doc Hudson in Cars, Robin Williams, Clint Eastwood. Lasseter wanted Tom Hanks though. And to give people an idea of whether Hanks would work, whether his voice would work for their for this character Woody, they took a animated Woody doing a scene from Turner and Hooch. Which got Hanks on board. They approached Billy Crystal to play Buzz. Did the same thing, but with dialogue from When Harry Met Sally. He turned it down because he didn't think it would be successful. He regretted that pretty immediately after its initial success. Of course, yeah. Hindsight being what it was, obviously it worked out because he's part of Pixar as Mike Wazowski. There's like a whole lot of male actors who were like hot at, well known at the time. Dan Aykroyd, Matthew Broderick. Oh my God, I'm so glad they didn't use Matthew Broderick. Michael J. Fox. Were all considered, and eventually Lasseter went to Tim Allen, who was kind of also hit at the time. Home Improvement was a very hit show at the time, and it's a Disney property because it was on ABC. And actually, Billy Crystal said later, he's like, yeah, it wouldn't have been a very good Buzz. And of course we got some, speaking of some of our other characters, we got Wallace Shawn as Rex, the late Jim Varney as Slinky Dog.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, Billy, how 6 years later, he wound up in his own Disney. So, it worked out. There was a reason.
Yeah. So, even once everybody was cast and everything, obviously, this being the first attempt at something like this, it was not smooth sailing. It's unfortunate. The thing is, it's like, unfortunately, some of the voices in the very first movie, some of these people aren't with us anymore, which, kind of bites. Don Rickles, Mr. Potato Head, hilarious. Thankfully, a good number of unfortunately, Arlie Ermy is no longer with us either. But we've got John Ratzenberger, who of course is in every Pixar movie. He's considered Pixar's, kind of lucky penny. Annie Potts, does the voice of Bo Peep.
Yep.
But yeah, there was they did their obviously when you're doing something new, it's gonna be a lot harder because you're the one figuring out how the hell this is gonna work. Of course, it didn't help that you have Katzenberg involved. It's like for every good idea he has, he manages to come up with 12 bad ones. So it's like, the idea of turning it into a buddy comedy, great idea. Him later wanting to add more edginess, not so
good.
much. Because it ended up, it was just the characters didn't have the charm. Woody ended up being like a real jackass of a character.
Not the Audrey shucks that we were so used to at the first movie.
Yeah. They ended up doing a screening of the first half, at least of what they had, to Disney executives in late 1993, and it was just, it bombed. Peter Schneider ended up like putting the brakes on production, and then Katzenberg was like, "Oh, why was it so bad?" And it's like, because it's not the movie that John set out to make originally, John Lasseter. So thankfully, Katzenberg allowed Lasseter to take the script back to Pixar and do some much needed rewrites. So that the crew would not suddenly become unemployed, they shifted to television commercials, and Steve Jobs was bankrolling the payroll. But it was rough. It was rough. At one point, Schneider actually went to Eisner to appeal to him to cancel the project altogether. But thankfully Eisner did not listen. It also helped that they were able to get the first initial rewrites to people within a couple weeks. Ultimately, it took them 3 months to rewrite the entire script. But it made Woody more of the leader of the toys, and not so much of a jackass. And also adding in the idea to make it very clear that Buzz Lightyear is not aware that he is a toy. And yeah, eventually they brought everybody back in, all the voice the talent to record their lines, and they just they hunkered down and got back to work. So yeah, that was it again. I'm not going to get into all the technical stuff of how the 3D animation works and everything. So again, you can go find behind the scenes, stuff on your DVDs and on the YouTubes and stuff, and see the early days of how Pixar animated everything. Obviously this is not a musical. That's the thing that kind of is a big direct differentiation between Walt Disney Animation and Pixar. Is in general, Pixar does not do musicals. Not every Walt Disney Animation movie is a musical either, but of the two, when you think when you think of Disney cartoon films, you're going to think of the princesses bursting out into song. And that being said, there are some well-known songs. Randy Newman was hired and did 3 original songs for the film, including You've Got a Friend in Me. And eventually it was time to release. And of course, it being Disney, one of their premieres was at the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles. And then Pixar had their own at the Regency Center, which is in San Francisco, which is where Pixar headquarters are. And of course, Disney being who they are, when it comes to promoting films, it is all about merchandising and marketing. And that included working with companies like Burger King and Pepsi and Coke and Payless. Who remembers Payless?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it did well. Steve Jobs, before the release, said if Toy Story is a modest hit, say 75 million at the box office, we'll, meaning Pixar and Disney, both break even. If it gets 100 million, we'll both make money. But if it's a real blockbuster and earns 200 million or so at the box office, we'll make good money. Disney will make a lot of money. It released November 22nd, 1995. It managed to gross more than $350 million worldwide. So, just domestically, in its first 5 days of release, which is over Thanksgiving weekend, it earned $39.1 million.
Wow.
So, it earned a total of $158.6 million from ticket sales combined with the 5-day Wednesday opening. So, opening the day before Thanksgiving. It placed first in the weekend's box office with $29.1 million and maintained its number 1 position at the domestic box office for the next 2 weekends. It became the highest grossing domestic film of 1995, beating Batman Forever, Apollo 13, Pocahontas, Casper, Waterworld. Of course, I think everything beat Waterworld, so that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah.
GoldenEye, among others. At the time of its release, it was the third highest grossing animated film of all time after The Lion King and Aladdin. It became the second highest grossing film of 1995, just $3 million behind Die Hard with a Vengeance. When not considering inflation, Toy Story is number 96 on the list of the highest grossing domestic films of all time. As of September 21st, 2025, it has grossed almost $200 million in the US and Canada and $176 million in international markets from its original release in 1985 and its subsequent re-releases for a total of $347.6 million worldwide. It also has a 100% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So, and I agree. Yeah, it's it went on to win a crap ton of awards. So, it also got nominated. It got nominated for Best Original Screenplay, Best Original Musical Comedy Score, Best Original Song, and at the Academy Awards, John Lasseter got a Special Achievement Award. So, yeah. Won some Annie Awards, was nominated for some Golden Globes, nominated for the BAFTA. So, yeah, and then was added to the National Film Registry in 2005. So, yeah. To say that, like I said, to say that Toy Story changed things is putting it mildly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's just it's a good movie. That's the thing. The
Yes.
technology aside, the story is a really good movie. You know, yes, it's the enemies to friends type thing is one of the oldest plot devices in the entire world. People brought together who are so diametrically different. It's like, how could these people ever find anything in common to be able to, even stand to be near each other, let alone be friends. And I like that even though they found a way to make Woody not a jackass, but they still found ways to make Woody accidentally look like a jackass.
Yeah.
Like originally he was gonna push Buzz out the window, but in
Yeah.
this case, it's an
Ooh.
accident.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just their weird adventures, the weird circumstances that they find themselves in with the idea of, and I think this is something that probably resonated with kids and maybe not in a conscious way, but I think it's something I'm not a parent, but from what I understand, this is a somewhat of a common thing when uh when you are the firstborn and the only child for a while, and then your parents have another kid, whether they actually have another kid or whether they adopt or whatever, but then you suddenly become the big sibling to another kid. That sometimes some kids go through a bit of apprehension, thinking maybe that they will get replaced, or maybe their parents won't love them as much because now they've got to share their parents' love and time and affection with this new person. And I think that's kind of what Woody is facing when Buzz comes in. When we're introduced to these toys at the very beginning, and they're having, their little adventure of, with the train and Woody coming in to save the day and all that fun stuff, knowing full and well that Andy's having a birthday, and that means new toys, and none of them want to see anybody get replaced. But for Woody specifically, he's been like, numero uno as far as favorite toy. I mean, it's not just that he's Andy's favorite toy, but like it's also literally inspired Andy's surroundings. Like his bedroom is themed to Woody and Woody's Roundup. It's cowboy themed and everything. And when he gets his Buzz Lightyear toy, suddenly, like, his bedspread is Buzz Lightyear themed, and the decor in his room changes to spaceships instead of horses and stuff. So this idea of in a family, which, this kind of ragtag little group, they consider themselves, each other's family. What, is it possible for the joy that comes from being played with, which is ultimately their purpose, that Buzz has to get there, because first he has to recognize that he's a toy in the first place, but the rest of our gang, they know they're toys and they know their purpose in life is to be played with and bring kids joy and fun. But it's I don't necessarily mean to make this like so like I don't know, so like existential, but the idea of not being wanted anymore and suddenly losing your purpose is, I mean, that's something that I think we all deal with at one time or other in our life, whether it's a new sibling or a new kid in class at school, or any moment or time of significant change can be can knock you off of your place in life, I guess.
Oh, it takes you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it takes you out of your comfort zone. It shakes things up. You get comfortable with the status quo, and sometimes shaking things up is a good thing.
Right.
But it could still be jarring. And sometimes it takes a while for you to find your footing again. And that's what Woody goes through in this, is the idea of, being replaced and not being wanted and becoming obsolete, and, getting to the point where, he gets put in the, the yard sale, bin, because Andy doesn't play with that toy anymore, which is, the part of the plot of the second movie,
Yes.
And partially part of the third, actually. And that's actually going to be the kind of the plot for the new movie that we're getting. Is in this case, it's how do these toys compete with the flash, bang, beepy, electronic things, that the iPads, the smartphones, the gaming consoles, your Nintendo Switches, whatever, that kids just like, they put their head down and the rest of the world disappears. How are these toys going to deal with that?
More cutting edge than what Buzz was when Buzz arrived on scene in the first
Right.
movie.
Yeah. So it's like, it's an interesting thing, and even as an adult, I can recognize and respect, what they're trying to say, uh, with these, like, yes, I love being face down playing on my phone as much as the next person. But I also enjoy playing with non-electronics. There's a reason I've got, unfortunately, because of life and crap, I haven't been able to do it as much as I'd like to. But I don't buy like these board games and stuff at when I go to Gen Con every year just for you know for to look at them. Uh, you know, I want to, I want to play board games and play with dice and little figures and stuff. So it's like I totally get that there's something about playing with tangible things like your little green army men or an etch a sketch or whatever, that I'm sure somebody somewhere, if not multiple somebody somewhere, has done research of like what parts of the brain light up when doing involved in those types of activities, and I'm sure it's a very positive thing. I'm sure. So plus dagnabbit, they've made us care about CGI toys. I mean, by the time we get Toy Story 3, we're all in tears in the movie theater. Y'all know what scene I'm talking about. If you don't, then either you've managed to block it out or you don't know what or you haven't seen it. And I'm not going to go into detail because I don't need to re-traumatize myself again at the moment. Please and thank you. So, and the franchise as a whole still has a very strong hold, as far as Disney fans are concerned. There's a whole, I mean, now there is a much bigger section at Hollywood Studios in Florida where they've got, it's a whole Toy Story themed area with a number of attractions, food, character meet and greets. It started out as just the Toy Story Midway Mania attraction, which always just had the longest line. That was like the hot attraction for the longest time when I was going to Florida on a regular basis. But that's also where you could meet some of the Toy Story characters like Woody and Buzz, and they're always fun to meet. And they'd have the Green Army men marching around, hollering orders at people, which is always funny. See this life-size Green Army man yelling at some guy like, "Drop a gimme 10," some poor kid's dad is like, like, "Yes, sir."
And the kid's like, "Yay!"
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And but now they also have the Slinky roller coaster. So the roller coaster train looks like a giant Slinky dog. I haven't been there since all that's been added, so I have yet to be able to ride that. So that being said, I am headed to Disneyland, and over at DCA, Pixar Pier, as we lovingly call it, Pixar Pier / San Francisco. it's not just Toy Story, it's a lot of Pixar, but Toy Story is they'd have their own version of Toy Story Midway Mania over there, which is fun. And again, your characters, so yeah, we would not have what we have if they had not been able to pull this off. For better, for worse, the issues with Katzenberg and Eisner, looking mostly at you, Jeffrey. I mean, Eisner had his own issues, but Katzenberg's a horse of a different color. And Steve Jobs, for as brilliant as he was in some aspects, he was a very, very flawed individual who had some significant personality issues. And I know John Lasseter eventually got the boot from Pixar after some not so nice things came to light about him. So the people involved in this 30 years ago, for better or worse, they're not necessarily the best people. But when it came to this particular project and having this all come together, with all the hiccups and everything, the fact that they managed to pull this off is an accomplishment that cannot be overlooked at all, in my humble opinion. That's my 2 cents. I say that as a huge Disney fan in general.
Right.
So
yeah. And I mean, you can go back and look at some of the history that we've done with Disney so far, with some of the stuff that we've briefly touched upon, to get down into some of the nitty gritty.
Yeah, very much so. We'll see how number 5 turns out.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
I mean, they could have left it at 3.
Yeah.
And I mean,
maybe I like Sporky though.
Yeah.
Nice addition. I mean, but I could see I know what you're getting at, Rach.
Yeah. I mean, just the way that 3 ended, even as traumatizing as it was.
Yes.
Even as traumatizing as this one is. I mean, Sid. Yeah. I mean, there's not really any villains in this movie. Sid is the closest you have.
Yes. Yeah.
To a villain.
I think
they took some of the nasty aspects of Woody's personality,
and put it.
And instead of just tossing it in the trash, they moved it over to Sid.
And I hate to say it, I think us growing up, we've all known somebody with Sid-like tendencies.
I mean, you've got your kids that just play rough,
right,
with their toys, especially when they're on the younger side and they just don't understand.
Exactly. Yeah, things
physics,
break.
Stuff breaks. They don't know their own strength.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And then when you get a little older, you're going to have your kids that experiment. I myself have been guilty of creating my own weird Barbie by getting a hold of some scissors and playing hairstylist.
I think we've all done that. I remember doing that. Yes.
Yeah. So
learned my lesson.
A little bit of toy mutilation is going to happen, more than likely. And then you have Sid.
Yes. Yeah. He falls into his own little category.
Victor Frankenstein of toy torture. Um, and I love. First of all, as much as they put the kibosh on Katzenberg's suggestion to add some more mature jokes and stuff in there for the parents, which I mean there are a few. I mean, if you're when you're a little kid, seeing Woody and Bo Peep smooching,
Right.
as a little kid, you're gonna be like, ew,
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
but as an adult, you're like, hey,
Yeah.
you're gonna pick up what they're putting down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of those things fly over the little one's head, but then
right,
others it's just like,
but I have to say, because when this originally came out, I would have been 12. So still too young to recognize the Easter egg for what it is. But now, as a full-grown adult with more movie watching experience under my belt, the fact that Sid's house is carpeted with the same carpet from The Shining
okay,
should be a clue.
Yeah, that okay. Now that explains why okay, you just answered the thing I couldn't put my finger on. It's like, I know I've seen that somewhere. Thank you.
It's the same carpet from the Overlook Hotel.
I mean, minus the creepy twins staring you down.
I mean, the mutilated baby doll head with the metal leg things. I mean,
yeah,
you don't need creepy twins when you got that.
No, right? True. That's the replacement.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's one of those Easter eggs that it's like, and I know that's been the case where a lot of people are like, I'm today years old when I suddenly realized where I know that carpet from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's one of those where it's like, it's not necessarily something that you're supposed to be paying attention to.
Right.
But once you see it, the pattern is so distinctive that you're going to be like, I've seen that somewhere before.
It's ringing some bells.
But you're so busy watching the movie that you don't really get a chance to mull on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then through the power of the internet now, you're like, I'm today years old when I realize that Sid has the carpet from the Overlook Hotel in his house. So, but yeah.
Well, and then and also Sid does kind of look a little bit like the Norman Bates actor if he were the aged child, kind of almost a little bit of that look to him.
And I can't remember if this has actually been confirmed or not, or if it's just something I read. It was somebody's speculation. But when Lotso Huggin gets picked up towards the end of Toy Story 3 by the trash truck, supposedly that is Sid.
Oh yeah,
the
I've seen that.
Man.
Oh wow!
Because he wears the same shirt, right, or something like that.
Yeah,
or
he's
similar?
still wearing. Yeah, he's still wearing the shirt that looks like a ripoff of the Punisher. But so yeah, and again, obviously in Toy Story it's all we know that's all the same world, it's all the same universe, but it does also help bring a bit more I guess credence to the Pixar theory, which those that don't know, the Pixar theory is that all the Pixar movies actually exist within the same universe.
I.e. the nods to Planet Pizza and
right. Yeah. So you can actually, there is actually a website you can go to It is pixartheory.com. And you can, it has all of the movies. As far as how they are all connected, starting in the universe, starting with Brave, which is the 14th 15th century, all the way up to Monsters Inc. in like the year like 5000.
Wow.
So so yeah. But I don't think this has necessarily been updated too terribly, because I think this only, yeah, because it only has Toy Story 3 and Cars 2. So
Okay.
Ah.
so it's not completely up to date, but it's a place to start. And dig through the internet, you can always find things. The Oh crap. What's her name's? There's a YouTube channel, and um can't think of their names now. Um it's a couple of brothers, and they're just huge like Disney nerds, among other things. And Super Carlin Brothers. And every time there is a new Pixar movie released, they will try to figure out how it fits into the greater Pixar theory timeline.
Nice.
So the last time they did a big one was in 2022. So, which makes it slightly newer than the Pixar Theory website. Um, but yeah, I'll put a link to their YouTube channel in the show notes. So, but yeah, they're ones that try to fit every new every new uh Pixar movie into the Pixar theory. So, and they do have a video for Elio. So but they just have not done a big update to the big mega. So, but anyway. Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. That's a lot. But hey,
Mm-hmm.
somebody's got to be laying the groundwork for these things. Somebody's got to be breaking the glass ceiling, being the trailblazer. Take your pick.
Mm-hmm.
Take your pick on how you want to word that. Oh. Any final thoughts? Comments?
If you haven't gone back for Toy Story rewatch, do so.
Yes.
Yep. Because I don't.
Because I forgot how good
think,
they were.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got time too, because I think number 5 is due out next year, probably at the earliest.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even with the advancements in computers, it still takes them a couple of years from like initial idea to full completion for a Pixar movie, just because the sheer amount of work that goes into doing this type of animation. Thankfully, in the case of making sequels, at least a bunch of our characters, they have them already designed. They know what they're going to look like, and they have not changed. The Toy Story characters look the way they look. The Cars characters look the way they look. Same thing with Monsters Inc. Same thing with The Incredibles. I'm so excited we're also going to get a new Incredibles movie. I love The Incredibles. But of course, we also get new characters. We also get new locations. So those are all starting from scratch as far as, building up the 3D models for those and then doing the animation and all the fun stuff. So, it's not something that I specialized in just because I don't have the patience for it. But, if you look, you can go on his IMDb, I believe. I'm sure he's got an IMDb. I didn't know him because he graduated. Yeah, he graduated a little before me. But Chauncey knew him, and I met him like once. He came back to the school, but there is his name is, well known as Frank. He is his listing on IMDb is Jung Leon Frank Tai, but he's worked for Pixar up until recently, I think, as a set modeling and set dressing artist. So, yeah, he he graduated from the same program Chauncey and I did, but he actually specialized in doing 3D modeling and animation because he has the patience for that sort of thing. Me, not so much, which is why he has an Oscar, kind of. What's funny is when, I don't know about Disney animation, but Pixar, when one of their movies wins the Oscar for animated feature, they get the staff that works on that specific movie, because not everybody's working on the same movie at the same time, just because of the sheer amount of time it takes. So you'll have a group of people working on, a movie that's due out in like 2 years from now, so they're earlier on. Meanwhile, movie that's due out sooner, you're going to have a group that's working on, be further in the production timeline. But whoever works on that particular movie, they give them little Oscars. Not like the little, like, official ones like what Walt Disney did, where they gave him the 7 little ones for the 7 dwarfs. But they do get like little, like, Oscar like looking statues to give to the crew that work on the films. So Frank has at least one of those. Not a few. All right. Well, if any of our listeners want to send in feedback about Toy Story or Pixar or anything else we may have talked about, you can send feedback like Shalane did. You can email us, fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. And you send that to us and we may just read it out for everyone to hear it. Or you can go to our website, which is thefiveishfangirls.com, where you can find links to all of our podcast related social media accounts and much of our individual ones as well. I'm trying to get better about actually posting on social media and not just scrolling on social
Yeah.
commenting on other people's stuff. Although right now everybody's just gone down the life of a showgirl rabbit hole.
Mhm.
But yeah, you can do that. So you can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram. Take your pick. We try to check that stuff often enough. So occasionally I do forget. Oh yeah, that's a thing. And we're always happy to hear from y'all in however you let us know that you're out there, whether it's sending a full-on long email or just a like or a share on some social media platform. It is all appreciated. And just a fair warning. So you can't say we didn't tell you in advance. There will not be a new show next week. Because my happy butt is going to be on vacation, actually. So speaking of Disney, I'm headed to Disneyland. So
Yay! Enjoy. Safe travels.
yeah. If I happen to see Buddy, good Lord, I need sleep.
Woody.
Woody or Buzz,
There you go.
I will tell them hi on your behalf.
Yeah.
Just as long as I don't get a Green Army man that insists I drop and give him any number of push-ups.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I will have a recap of that, all my shenanigans. I'm so excited. Part of me is all like, I'll believe it when I see it, when I'm actually there. It's been so long. This will be my first time setting foot in a Disney theme park since 2017.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
So yeah, my last time I set on foot on anything Disney property was my last cruise in 2018. Ever since then, it's all been Disney adjacent stuff. But yeah, so this will be my first time back in the theme parks since 2017. Actually, my first time back at Disneyland in a decade. So, because the last time we went, it was 2015 for the 60th anniversary. So, the last time we went at Christmas time. This time we're going at Halloween time. So,
Ooh, that should be fun.
Ooh.
yeah. So,
See how they decorate for Halloween.
oh yes, I'm very excited. Oh, actually, Disneyland. Well, Galaxy's Edge, because of neither of us have been to Galaxy's Edge at any park yet, will be very exciting. That's at Disneyland. But you all might be able to tell when I set foot on Avengers Campus, though. If you hear, if you hear a squee that measures on the Richter scale,
High decibel. Yeah.
coming generally
High
from the
decibel.
west coast of the United States, sometime later this weekend, that will be me. Just saying. So, yeah. But I will tell you guys all about that upon my return. So, but until then, we are going to sign off for this week.
This is Brittany Bengals saying goodnight.
This is Sally from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been chosen by the clock. Ooh. Thank you, our Fiveish fam, for joining us on this week's geeky journey. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Stay connected with us on our website, thefivishfangirls.com, and follow us on most social media with @FivishFangirls. Plus, check out our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back, to see how we're making a positive impact in our community. Until next time, stay nerdy and let the squee continue.